Hey, it's Brian here, and in this video I'm going to dive into how sports has made me open-minded. And if you appreciate the video, like the video, share it, and also comment down below how you personally manifest your open-mindedness. And to start with this video, I'm just going to frame my background in sports a bit. So I played a little bit. Basketball was always my favorite sport, but honestly, I'm primarily talking about following sports because that's honestly how I've primarily developed my understanding of myself, other people, and psychology through that. And I'm talking about my middle school and high school years. So from like 2004 to 2012, I was a diehard Dallas Mavericks fan in the NBA in particular. So I wrote in a journal about the team pretty much, recaps of games. I would watch some post-game interviews, read a bunch of articles, and I was just all in, really following the team. So I was really objective, just evaluating things going on between players and just, strengths and weaknesses of players and that sort of thing. And I noticed a couple things just from watching ESPN, people talking about the sport, about my team, maybe friends at school saying certain things, reading articles. And the thing I noticed was people a lot of times on TV would just lie about certain things, or they would utilize revisionist history about certain things to fit an agenda, or maybe to frame a narrative. And on TV a lot of times they did this for hot takes because they want some views. And I was able to pinpoint this and the inconsistencies with some things that was being said because, again, I saw it with my own eyes. Like, you can't trick someone when they see it day in and day out. And again, it could be like a strengths or weaknesses thing when it comes to certain players. Things that just didn't make sense if you actually watched the game. And then I started to think critically about this. Like, wait, I watched every single game. I write in a journal, and I have no time for anything else, between studying for school and going to school and that sort of thing. So it's like, how are these people watching every game like I am? Like, how are my friends at school actually watching these games? Like, they're not even a fan of my team. So then you come to the conclusion, like, wait, they're not actually watching the game. And through critical thinking, you can kind of get to the understanding that the opinions a lot of times that people have in sports during that time period that I'm talking about, they're not actually their opinion at all. It's just what they heard. They're not really thinking for themselves at all. So it's just groupthink pretty much. And again, the way that this spreads is like one person on TV may say something and they have an agenda. So they share a distorted truth, and 5 people or 5,000 people see that on TV. And a percentage of those people just adopt that mentality. They say it to a friend. They say it to someone else. They share it on social media. So it's like from this, all this misinformation is circulating just from one lie. Like, the only actual lie was the source, and then everyone else is just not thinking for themselves. They're not lying on purpose, but they're just spreading the misinformation from the one person that had the agenda. So that's what you have to be conscious of. So that's why the credibility of people is not all the way there for me. Like, I never just immediately take a side or have an opinion from hearing one person say that. Even if I personally know that person, because I know how misinformation can spread and how a lot of times people don't even understand that they're not thinking for themselves. And really, a big point too is you need to understand that the fact that so many people act like they have an informed opinion about so many different subjects is a sign in and of itself that it's BS. Like sports, for instance. Like, you read online forums, just hear, friends talk, people talk about sports. You think every single person has all the time in the world to watch every single NBA game. It seems like everyone has an opinion on every single player, every single year, every single team. It's like, how is that even possible? It's not. Like me personally, again, I put in the work for my team, so I have an opinion on my team during those years. But I don't judge like some random player on another team from seeing them play my team once or twice a year. So a lot of opinions is just parroting what someone else said. There's no time to do the research for every possible thing. There's not. There's something called time constraints. And it's one thing to say, I think this may be true, but I'm not sure, which is okay in regards to some subjects. But people act way too confident nowadays, talking about every single subject imaginable. Nobody's got actual time to do research on every single thing. Even for myself, I would say 90% plus of subjects out there, I do not have an informed opinion on, and I admit that. So that's why I seek to have perspective from all sides and do the research myself. And you best believe, though, if I speak on something, I believe I have an informed opinion. Everything I talk about on this YouTube channel when it comes to psychology topics or parenting or even the racism series that I just did, I mentally put in the work to self-reflect, to have my own opinion. I didn't just adopt someone else's opinion. You know, because like if I'm not sure about something, I'll say that. I'll say, I'm not sure about that. Or I need to research a little more to have an informed opinion. Or I don't know my answer to that. I don't have an opinion. And guess what? That's so much better saying something like that than just having an opinion, but you're just parroting some distorted or illogical truth. Another thing that I learned through sports is just that no lead is safe. So you can have a comeback and you can have a setback. So like if you're up 20 points in the third quarter, you can still lose the game. And if you're down 20 points in the third quarter, you can still win the game. So that mindset, you can apply that open-mindedness to other areas of life. So for example, like if I had like a 94% going into a final exam in college, some people would be like, ooh, I got this in the bag. They're closed-minded to the fact that they can still get a B. So I know how comebacks work in sports. So that's how comebacks work in life too. So I knew I still have to study as much as I possibly can. Because if I get a F or a D on this final, I can still get a B for the semester. And on the other side of the spectrum, say there's a long shot. Like even a scenario like, you know, when I was single, maybe I was contemplating talking to a girl or that sort of thing. Of course, she's probably not interested. I mean, like anyone. I mean, it's kind of a long shot. But you got to be open-minded to there's a chance, right? Just like there's a chance that you can come back from a deficit in a basketball game. So being open-minded to that means that you'll take the shot, right? You'll take the shot. So you got to be open-minded to all possible outcomes in life because there are a lot of outcomes in life. And just watching sports, I really developed that mentality at an early age. Nothing is outside of the realm of possibility, pretty much. And also, the idea that you can't judge a book by its cover or a person by how they look, I strengthened through sports too. So it's like, look, playing sports, playing pickup, playing on a team, watching sports, like someone could look like they can play. They can be tall, but they might suck at basketball. Or someone might be short or maybe look like a nerd or something, like they don't know how to dribble, but they might be able to play ball. So you can never judge someone by how they look. You really can't. And also, like when someone joins, say, my favorite team, the Dallas Mavericks, you can't just assume how they're going to play based off how they played on their previous team. You got to be open-minded that they can turn things around, that they can improve themselves. So I have this mindset with everyone that I meet in life too. Like I'm not judging someone based on what they did from the past. Like if I meet someone who, say, went to prison, I'm not closed-minded to the fact that they could be a good person and they can really be trying to get on the positive track of life. Or maybe someone was really lazy when they were in high school. I'm still open-minded to the fact that they can change their life. They can turn things around and become a hard worker right now. Another thing that I took to heart from sports is just that consistency matters. So you can never judge, say, a player or a team from one bad moment or one bad game, because that might not be an accurate reflection of who they actually are. And it's like you can apply this logic to other areas of life. So say like someone gets an F on a test. You can't just be closed-minded to, oh, they can still be smart, they can still, not be the brightest bulb. You can't just judge them as, oh, they're dumb from there. Or if someone gets an A, you can't just be like, oh, they're brilliant. Like, no, you need to see more consistency over time to have an accurate opinion on maybe the expertise that someone has in a particular area. And also, I noticed in sports too, if someone has bias, they may compare a player or team's worst moment to another player or team's best moment. So they selectively pick what they want to talk about to prove their point. And another way of putting this, another example is officiating in sports. So if you know basketball, you know that it's really hard to ref a basketball game. So refs make bad calls the whole entire game against both teams. So for example, I'm just going to use two random teams, the Lakers and the Heat. So I've noticed, say the Lakers fans may say something like, oh, well, this foul call wasn't called on the Heat when it should have been. But then on the other end, this same play was called on us. Therefore, the refs were unfair. The whole game was unfair. So this is just a fallacy because what that person fails to understand, or they understand but they're intentionally not being truthful, is that the other team can say that same exact argument. They can suddenly pick what they want to talk about. So just from watching sports and following sports all my life pretty much, in society, when people compare things between different groups or they just frame their argument by selectively picking what they want to talk about, I can pinpoint this right away. And this is just from my experience evaluating information all my life in sports and life. So I can really pinpoint that right away. You gotta notice that fallacy of thinking, of just selectively picking what you want to talk about. So I hope all this stuff I talked about it just gives you a glimpse of how I've become open-minded through following and watching sports. It's giving you a glimpse into my brain. You know, you really have to understand, and I've understood partly through sports, is that the media can distort the truth a lot of times, and that misinformation can spread and spread and spread, and then groupthink manifests from there. And I've learned how to be open-minded towards people, how to be open-minded to different outcomes in life. And like all this just through watching and following sports pretty much. And I think the message from this too is like, if you're watching or following or really involved in a particular hobby, like use that hobby to develop your critical thinking skills, to improve your psychology. Because every single topic imaginable can be used for multiple purposes, not just for enjoyment's sake, maybe for that one thing. So really keep that in mind, and I just want to encourage you once again to have your own opinion on things. That's what being open-minded is all about. Having your opinion about things and not just taking on someone's perspective. And when you don't know enough to have your own opinion on things, don't be afraid to say, I do not know. Open-mindedness. Subscribe if you vibe.